Marcus and Kira ran through the dark forest. The sounds of the Vex soldiers crashed behind them, getting closer with each minute. "This way," Marcus whispered, pulling Kira down a steep path next to a small stream. "The water will hide our scent. Their trackers can't follow us there." They waded through the cold water for nearly an hour. Kira's legs shook with exhaustion, but she pushed forward. The moons overhead cast just enough light to see the rocky path. "We need to find shelter before sunrise," Marcus said. "The Vex have special vision equipment. They can spot us easily in daylight." Kira studied the strange plants around them. "These red flowers," she said, pointing to clusters of blooms along the bank. "On my world, similar plants grow near caves." Marcus looked where she pointed. "You're right. There might be a cave system nearby." Following Kira's observation, they discovered a small opening hidden behind thick vines. The cave inside was dry and deep enough to hide them. As dawn approached, they settled in their hiding place. Marcus unpacked the small bag of supplies: water, food rations, a medical kit, and a handheld communicator. "Can you contact your people?" Kira asked. Marcus shook his head. "Not safe. The Vex might track the signal." He handed her some food. "Eat. We need strength." They ate in silence, listening for any sound of pursuit. "Why did you help me?" Kira asked suddenly. "You lost your family to my people. You could have turned me over to the Vex." Marcus thought for a long moment. "After my family died, I was filled with hate for all Nilarians. I joined the military to fight, to get revenge." He looked at her. "But then I found you, injured and afraid. You didn't look like a monster. You looked like someone who needed help. On Nilaria, they show us pictures of humans torturing our people." Kira wrapped her 4 arms around herself. "They tell us humans enjoy causing pain. Both sides use lies to make soldiers hate the enemy," Marcus said. "It's easier to kill someone if you think they're evil." A sudden noise outside made them freeze. A Vex patrol ship flew overhead, its lights scanning the forest below. "They're not giving up," Marcus whispered. When the ship passed, Kira reached into her pocket and took out a small silver device. "This contains my research," she said. "If we can get this to the right people, humans and Nilarians who want peace, we might stop this war." Marcus studied the device. "How does your communication technology work?" "It creates a bridge between minds," Kira explained. "When connected, you feel what the other feels, know what they know. No lies, no misunderstandings. And the Vex don't want that to happen. No, war is profitable for them. Peace would end their business." As the day passed, they took turns keeping watch. During her rest, Kira had nightmares. She cried out in her sleep, speaking in her native language. Marcus gently woke her. "You were dreaming." Kira's silver eyes were wide with fear. "I saw my home burning. My family, my friends." Without thinking, Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. Kira tensed at first, then slowly relaxed against him. "In human culture," he said softly, "this is how we comfort someone who is sad or afraid." Kira looked up at him. "It feels safe." For a moment, they just sat there, human and Nilarian, finding comfort in each other's presence. When night fell again, they prepared to continue their journey. "There's an old research station about 10 miles north," Marcus said. "We might find communications equipment there, maybe even transport." As they left the cave, Kira paused and touched Marcus's hand. "Thank you," she said simply. Marcus nodded, understanding all she couldn't say. 2 enemies, now unlikely allies, stepped back into the dangerous night. Kira Zal looked up at the red sky of her home planet one last time. Explosions lit up the horizon as the Vex Imperium ships bombarded the last Nilarian strongholds. "Move quickly. The escape pods won't wait forever," shouted her supervisor. Kira clutched her small bag of personal items and research data. As a top scientist, she was one of the lucky few allowed to escape. Many others would face the mercy of the invaders, or worse, be caught in the bombing. Rumors said that humans were helping the Vex. Kira shuddered at the thought. Everyone knew about humans and their violence. Since childhood, she had seen the videos, the pictures, the stories of human soldiers showing no mercy to Nilarian prisoners. Bloodthirsty beasts with no souls, her teachers had called them. The escape pod was small and cold. Kira strapped herself in as the door sealed shut. The launch was rough, throwing her against the harness. Through the small window, she watched her world grow smaller, fires spreading across its surface like angry red veins. Navigation set for safe zone in Sector 7. The computer announced in a flat voice. Kira closed her eyes. Sector 7 was far from human space. She would be safe there, at least for a while. A loud bang jolted her awake. Warning lights flashed red all around the tiny cabin. Engine failure. Fuel leak detected. The computer stated calmly. Emergency landing procedures initiated. Panic seized Kira's chest. The pod was spinning now, falling toward a small planet below. She checked the navigation map, and her heart stopped. This wasn't Sector 7. The emergency systems had redirected her to the nearest planet, right on the border between Nilarian and human territories. The pod crashed through the atmosphere, metal screaming as it heated up. The stabilizers tried to slow the descent, but Kira knew it wasn't enough. She braced herself, wrapping her forearms around her body in the crash position. The impact came hard and fast. Pain exploded through Kira's body as the pod hit the ground, bounced, and crashed again. Metal tore, glass shattered. Something sharp cut into her side, and she felt warm purple blood flowing from the wound. When the pod finally stopped moving, Kira hung limp in her harness, drifting in and out of consciousness. The door had been ripped off in the crash. Cold air rushed in, carrying strange smells of an alien forest. System failure. The computer sputtered before going silent forever. Kira forced herself to focus. She needed to assess her situation. With shaking hands, she unstrapped herself and fell to the floor with a painful thud. Every movement sent waves of agony through her body. The medical kit was crushed. She managed to find one bandage, pressing it against the worst wound on her side. Her purple blood soaked through it almost immediately. Outside, the forest was dense and unfamiliar. Tall trees with blue-green leaves towered above. Strange calls of unknown creatures echoed in the distance. Kira checked her locator. The nearest settlement was 5 miles north. She had no idea who lived there, Nilarians, humans, or something else. But with her injuries in the coming night, she had no choice. She gathered what supplies she could find. A broken water filter, some emergency rations, a small knife, and stumbled out of the wreckage. Each step was torture. Purple blood dripped from her side, leaving a trail behind her. The forest grew darker as the planet's sun began to set. After hours of painful walking, Kira reached the edge of the forest. In the valley below, she saw lights, a small outpost with several buildings surrounded by a fence. As she moved closer, her heart froze. The flag flying above the main building showed the unmistakable emblem of the human alliance. Kira sank to her knees. Her worst fear had come true. She had landed in human territory. Stories of their cruelty to Nilarian prisoners flashed through her mind. The experiments, the torture, the public executions. But as the blood continued to drain from her body and darkness crept into the edges of her vision, Kira realized she had no choice. It was either the humans or death alone in the forest. With the last of her strength, she began the painful journey down the hill toward the human outpost. A week after Kira's arrival, 3 ships landed at the human outpost. They were sleek and black, unlike the standard military vessels. The symbol on their sides showed a red claw, the mark of the Vex Imperium. Marcus watched from the window as 6 tall figures in dark armor stepped out. "Hide in the storage room," he told Kira urgently. "Don't come out until I get you." Kira's face paled to a light blue. "Vex hunters," she whispered. "Why are they here?" I don't know. Go now. Marcus met the visitors at the main entrance. The leader removed his helmet, revealing gray skin and yellow eyes. Commander Drax of the Vex Special Forces, he announced. We're tracking dangerous Nilarian fugitives. Our sensors detected a crash in this area. Marcus kept his face neutral. We found an empty escape pod last week. No survivors. Drax smiled, showing sharp teeth. Mind if we look around, just to be thorough. This is a human outpost. We don't answer to the Vex. Your central command has authorized our search. Drax handed over a tablet with official documents. Full cooperation expected. Marcus had no choice but to agree. He assigned Lieutenant Park to escort the visitors. Watch them carefully, he whispered to Park. I don't trust them. Later, Marcus sneaked food to Kira in the storage room. They're searching the whole base, he told her. They'd brought special equipment to detect Nilarian biology. Kira hugged herself with all 4 arms. They're not looking for just any Nilarian, she said quietly. They're looking for me. Why? What makes you so important? Kira hesitated before answering. My research. I discovered something. Something that could change everything between humans and Nilarians. What kind of research? I studied communication between species. I found a way for humans and Nilarians to share thoughts directly, to understand each other completely. Marcus stared at her. That would end all the propaganda. No one could lie about the other side. Kira nodded. The military wanted to use it as a weapon to steal human secrets. When I refused, they threatened me. Then the Vex attacked, and I escaped. Why would the Vex care about this? Peace between humans and Nilarians would be very bad for them. Kira's silver eyes met his. They'd been selling weapons to both sides. A loud crash from outside made them both jump. Through the small window, they saw Vex soldiers breaking into the medical bay. They're checking for Nilarian DNA traces, Marcus realized. They'll find yours there. Kira's breathing quickened with fear. What do we do? Marcus thought quickly. We need to leave. Tonight. I know these forests better than they do. You would leave your post, your people, for me. This isn't just about you anymore, Marcus said. If what you're saying is true, the Vex have been playing both our species against each other. That makes them my enemy too. As night fell, Marcus gathered supplies while the Vex soldiers continued their search. He hid a small pack in the bushes behind the storage building. Just before midnight, Commander Drax announced to the human crew, Our sensors have detected recent Nilarian biological traces in your medical facility. Someone here is hiding a fugitive. Marcus watched as his fellow soldiers looked at each other with suspicion. He knew they had only hours before the Vex would find Kira. When the base grew quiet and the night shift began, Marcus opened the storage room door. It's time, he whispered. Stay low and follow me. Together, human and Nilarian slipped into the darkness of the forest, leaving behind the only safety they had known. Behind them, alarms suddenly blared at the outpost. They've discovered you're missing, Marcus said. Run. Kira raced up the stairs to the roof, clutching her research device and the data they had discovered. Below, she heard gunfire as Marcus confronted the Vex soldiers. The old communications array stood at the center of the roof, covered in rust and vines. Kira's 4 hands worked quickly, connecting wires and aligning the satellite dish. Her heart pounded with fear. Fear for herself, for Marcus, and for what would happen if she failed. More shots echoed from below. Then silence. Terrible silence. No, she whispered. Please, no. She forced herself to focus on the task. The array powered up with a low hum. Kira plugged in her device and began broadcasting on all frequencies. Attention all human and Nilarian forces. This is Scientist Kira Zal. I am transmitting proof that the Vex Imperium has manipulated our peoples into war. She sent the files. The intercepted communications, the faked attacks, the evidence of Vex involvement in starting and prolonging the conflict. A crash from the stairwell made her turn. Commander Drax emerged onto the roof, his weapon pointed at her heart. "Step away from the transmitter," he ordered. "It's too late," Kira said. "The truth is already being broadcast." Drax smiled coldly. "It doesn't matter. No one will believe a Nilarian spy." "They will when they see this." Kira held up her research device. "My life's work. Direct mind-to-mind communication between species. No lies, no misunderstandings." Drax's yellow eyes narrowed. "That's why we've been hunting you. Give me that device." "Where is Marcus?" Kira demanded. "The human, being questioned by my soldiers. He'll tell us who else knows about your little discovery." Kira's silver eyes flashed with anger. "Humans don't break easily. Everyone breaks eventually," Drax said, stepping closer. Suddenly, a voice came through the array's speaker. "This is Captain Lai of Human Alliance Ship Defender. We've received your transmission, Scientist Zoll. We're approaching your location." Moments later, another voice joined in. Nilarian science vessel Thora responding. "We've confirmed the authenticity of these files. Hold your position." Drax's face twisted with rage. He lunged for Kira, but she dodged, using all four arms to keep her balance as she moved away from him. "It's over, Commander," she said. "Your plan is exposed. Then I'll make sure you don't live to see peace," he snarled, aiming his weapon. Before he could fire, the door burst open. Marcus stood there, bloody but alive, his own weapon trained on Drax. "Drop it," Marcus ordered. Drax turned, firing at Marcus instead. The shot hit him in the shoulder, sending him stumbling backward. Kira screamed and ran to Marcus. Drax aimed again, but before he could fire, a blue energy beam hit him from above. A Nilarian ship hovered over the station, its weapons ready. More ships appeared, both human and Nilarian vessels surrounding the research station. Soldiers from both species landed on the roof, surrounding the fallen Vex commander. A human officer approached. "Captain Chen, are you all right?" Marcus nodded, leaning on Kira for support. "Lieutenant Park, how did you find us?" "We tracked the Vex ships," Park explained. "Then we received the transmission." He looked at Kira with newfound respect. "You two exposed a conspiracy that's cost millions of lives." A tall Nilarian in science robes stepped forward. "Scientist Zoll, your work may save countless more lives." She bowed formally. "Both our governments are calling for immediate ceasefire negotiations." As medics treated Marcus's wound, Kira stayed by his side, refusing to leave him. "You came back for me," Marcus said weakly. "Why?" Kira took his hand in one of hers. "Because some humans are worth saving," she said, echoing his earlier words. "And you showed me that compassion isn't limited to one species." Above them, human and Nilarian ships flew side by side for the first time in 8 years, not in battle, but in the first fragile moments of peace. 1 month after the events at the research station, the first official peace talks between humans and Nilarians began on neutral ground, a space station orbiting between their territories. Marcus stood by a large window, looking out at the stars. His shoulder had healed, though the scar remained. He wore a formal military uniform with new medals pinned to his chest. Hero of the Alliance, they called him now. "Captain Chen." A young officer approached. "The Nilarian delegation has arrived." Marcus nodded and made his way to the main conference room. High-ranking officials from both species sat around a large table, their faces solemn. Tensions remained high despite the ceasefire. The human general spoke first. "For 8 years, we fought a war based on lies. Thousands died on both sides while the Vex profited from our conflict. Trust will not come easily after so much bloodshed," the Nilarian elder replied. "Words alone cannot heal these wounds." "That is why we are not relying on words," the general said. "Scientist Zoll, please step forward." The doors opened, and Kira entered. She wore traditional Nilarian robes of silver and blue. In her 4 hands, she carried the device containing her research. Marcus felt his heart beat faster at the sight of her. They had been separated during the past month, He debriefed by human authorities, she by Nilarian scientists. Their eyes met across the room, and Kira gave him a small smile. My research allows direct mind-to-mind contact, Kira explained to the gathered leaders. When connected, you experience the other's thoughts and feelings. There can be no deception. Murmurs filled the room. Many looked skeptical or afraid. Who will be the first to try this technology? The Nilarian elder asked. I will, Marcus said, stepping forward. And I will be his partner, Kira added. They sat in 2 chairs in the center of the room. Kira placed her device between them and activated it, as soft blue lights surrounded their heads. Remember, Kira said quietly to Marcus, everything you think and feel, I will experience. And you will experience all of mine. I trust you, Marcus replied. The connection formed. Marcus gasped as Kira's memories flooded his mind. Her childhood on Nilaria, her years of scientific study, her fear of humans, and finally, her changing perception as she came to know him. He felt her emotions as if they were his own. Her initial terror, her confusion at his kindness, and eventually, something deeper developing between them. In turn, Kira experienced Marcus's life. The pain of losing his family, his years of hatred toward Nilarians, his inner conflict when finding her injured, and his gradual realization that enemies could become allies, even friends. When they finally disconnected, tears streamed down both their faces. It works, Marcus said to the silent room. There's no way to lie or hide anything. One by one, volunteers from both delegations came forward to experience the connection. Human and Nilarian, soldier and scientist, each pair emerged with new understanding. Later that evening, Marcus found Kira alone on an observation deck, watching the stars. Your research will change everything, he said, joining her by the window. Change is often difficult, she replied. Many on both sides still resist. But we've made a start. Marcus turned to face her. What will you do now when peace comes? Continue my research. There are many species in this galaxy who misunderstand each other. Kira's silver eyes met his. And you? I've requested reassignment to the new Joint Scientific Court. They need people who can work with both humans and Nilarians. Kira smiled. We would be working together. Marcus nodded. I'd like that. A moment of silence passed between them, comfortable and warm. In Human Stories, Marcus said finally, this is when the hero and heroine embrace. Kira stepped closer. Is that what we are? Heroes? No, Marcus said softly. Just 2 people who chose compassion over hate. He opened his arms to her, and this time, Kira was not stunned when she stepped into his embrace. It felt like coming home. Captain Marcus Chen walked the perimeter of the outpost, his rifle slung over his shoulder. The morning air was crisp and clean. He enjoyed these early patrols before the rest of the crew woke up. A flash of light in the sky caught his attention. Something had entered the atmosphere and crashed into the forest several miles away. Marcus radioed back to base. Possible crash landing in Sector 4. I'm going to check it out. Be careful, Captain, came the reply. Could be Vex scouts. Marcus took a small vehicle and drove toward the crash site. The forest was thick, but he followed the trail of broken trees. When he found the escape pod, it was empty. Purple blood stained the seats and floor. Nilarian, he whispered, recognizing the purple color. His hand instinctively tightened on his weapon. Every human knew about the Nilarians. 8 years ago, Marcus had lost his parents and younger sister in a Nilarian attack on their colony. The military had shown him the videos of Nilarian soldiers laughing as they destroyed human settlements. Marcus spotted the blood trail leading away from the crash. Whoever was injured might still be alive. Military protocol was clear. Capture any enemy combatants for questioning. He followed the purple drops through the forest until he reached the hill overlooking the outpost. There, crumpled on the ground, lay a Nilarian woman. She was small for her species, with light blue skin now pale from blood loss. Her 4 arms were wrapped around a deep wound in her side. She wore simple civilian clothes, not a military uniform. Marcus approached carefully, weapon ready. The Nilarian's eyes fluttered open, large, silver eyes that widened in terror when they saw him. "Please," she whispered in broken human language. "Quick death. No experiments." She closed her eyes, waiting for the shot. Marcus stared at the alien woman. Military training told him to take her prisoner. His memories screamed for revenge. But something else, something his parents had taught him long before the war, made him lower his weapon. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, kneeling beside her. The Nilarian opened her eyes, confused. Marcus took out his medical kit and began treating her wound. "My name is Captain Marcus Chen," he said as he worked. "What's yours?" She hesitated, suspicious. "Kira Zal." "You need proper medical care, Kira. I'm taking you back to base." Fear flashed across her face. "Human base? No, they kill Nilarians." Marcus shook his head. "Not this human." He lifted her carefully. Kira was light in his arms, her body trembling with fear and pain. She watched his face constantly, waiting for the mask of kindness to drop and reveal the monster she expected. Back at the outpost, Dr. Morales raised her eyebrows in surprise, but asked no questions as Marcus carried Kira into the medical bay. "She needs help," was all he said. While Dr. Morales treated Kira's wounds, Marcus faced the questions from his team. "She's a civilian," he explained, "probably fleeing the Vex invasion of the Nilarian homeworld." "She's still the enemy," Lieutenant Park reminded him. "Command will want her sent to headquarters for interrogation." "We'll report her tomorrow," Marcus said, "after she's stable." Later that night, Marcus checked on Kira. She was awake, watching him with guarded eyes. "Why help me?" she asked weakly. "Humans hate Nilarians." Marcus sat in the chair beside her bed. "War makes us do terrible things," he said, "but it doesn't have to make us terrible people." Kira stared at him, trying to understand. Everything she had been taught about humans contradicted the man sitting before her. "Rest now," Marcus said. "You're safe here." As he turned to leave, Kira spoke again. "The Vex. They attacked my world." Marcus stopped. "The Vex are no friends of humans either." "Then why do humans fight Nilarians?" she asked. Marcus looked back at her, his face tired. "I've been asking myself that same question for a long time." When he left the room, Kira lay back, stunned. The human had welcomed her not with cruelty, but with gentle arms and kind words. Nothing in her life had prepared her for this. 3 days passed. Kira's wounds were healing, but her confusion grew. She watched the humans from her bed in the medical bay, trying to understand them. They laughed together during meals. They spoke of families back home. They grieved when news came that another human outpost had been attacked. They seemed just like people. Marcus visited her every day. He brought her books about Earth and human history. "You read our language?" he asked. Kira nodded. "All scientists learn human languages to study enemy communications. And what did they teach you about us?" Kira looked away. "That humans kill for pleasure. That you experiment on Nilarian prisoners. That you want to take our worlds." Marcus sighed. "We were taught similar things about you." One morning, Marcus helped Kira walk outside for the first time. Her legs were weak, but she was eager to feel the sun. "What did you do before the war?" Marcus asked as they sat on a bench. "I study biology. Different species, how they live together." Kira looked at the forest. "I never wanted to fight. I wanted to learn." "I was a teacher," Marcus said, "before the Nilarian attack on New Haven." Kira's silver eyes widened. "You lost someone there." Marcus nodded. "My family. Parents and little sister." "I am sorry," Kira whispered. "The military said New Haven was a weapons facility. It was a farming colony." Marcus's voice was tight with old pain. They sat in silence, the weight of 8 years of war hanging between them. Later that day, a message arrived from Human Command. All Nilarian prisoners were to be sent to Central Headquarters immediately for enhanced interrogation. Lieutenant Park showed Marcus the orders. "We have to turn her in, Captain. She's not a prisoner. She's a refugee." Marcus paced the small communications room. "Command won't see it that way." Park pointed at the screen. "Look at these orders. They're hunting for Nilarians with scientific knowledge. Something big is happening." Marcus thought of Kira, of her silver eyes, and her curious questions about human life. He thought of the propaganda that had shaped both their people's hatred. "Tell Command we found an empty escape pod," he said finally. "No survivors." Park stared at him. "That's disobeying direct orders." "I know. Why risk your career for a Nilarian?" Marcus looked out the window toward the medical bay. "Because ending this war has to start somewhere." That night, Marcus told Kira about the orders. "They will punish you for hiding me," she said, her voice trembling. "Probably. I don't understand. Why help your enemy?" Marcus sat beside her bed. "When I found you, I saw fear in your eyes. The same fear I've seen in human refugees. I realized we're not so different." Kira reached out hesitantly. Her four-fingered hand hovered above his. "In Nilarian culture, touch means trust," she explained. Slowly, Marcus raised his hand to meet hers. Her skin was cool and smooth against his palm. "On Earth, we shake hands when we meet someone new," he said, demonstrating the motion. "It originally showed we weren't carrying weapons." Kira attempted the human handshake, her movements awkward but sincere. "My people would call me a traitor," she said softly. "Mine too." A small smile touched Kira's lips. "Then we are both traitors together." Outside the window, stars filled the night sky, the same stars their people fought and died over. But in this small room, a fragile trust was growing between two supposed enemies. As Kira drifted to sleep, she wondered what other lies she had been told about humans. And for the first time since her crash landing, she wasn't afraid of what tomorrow might bring. After 2 days of difficult travel, Marcus and Kira reached the abandoned research station. The old building stood half-hidden by climbing vines and tall grass, its metal walls rusted from years of neglect. "Stay alert," Marcus warned as they approached. "It might not be as empty as it looks." They entered through a broken door. Inside, dust covered everything: old desks, chairs, and strange equipment. The air was stale and cold. "What was this place?" Kira asked, looking at the faded symbols on the wall. "Joint Research Initiative," Marcus read. "This was built before the war. Humans and Nilarians worked here together." Kira's silver eyes widened. "Our people collaborated. I was never taught this." They explored the abandoned rooms. Most were empty or filled with broken equipment. In one room, they found old sleeping quarters with beds still intact. "We can rest here tonight," Marcus said. "I'll see if the power system still works." While Marcus checked the station's power, Kira discovered a locked room. The door had both human and Nilarian writing on it. "Archives. Classified." "Marcus," she called. "Look at this." Together, they forced the door open. Inside were shelves of data storage devices and paper files. A large computer terminal stood against one wall. "If we can power this up, we might learn something useful," Marcus said. Hours later, after connecting emergency power cells from their supplies, the old computer hummed to life. Its screen glowed with a faint blue light. Kira's 4 hands moved quickly over the keyboard, typing in both human and Nilarian commands. Files appeared on the screen. Hundreds of documents, videos, and images. "These are the original peace agreements," she said, voice filled with wonder. "Before the war." They spent the night reading through the files. What they discovered shocked them both. "Look at this," Marcus pointed to a document. 8 years ago, when the war started, both sides reported being attacked first. Kira nodded. The Nilarian military said humans bombed our colony on Vestra 4. That's why we attacked New Haven. But according to this, Marcus scrolled to another document. Human forces were responding to the New Haven attack. We didn't strike first. That's impossible, Kira said. Unless. They looked at each other as understanding dawned. Someone wanted the war to start, Marcus said quietly. More files revealed the truth. Communications intercepted and altered, peaceful messages changed into threats, staged attacks blamed on both sides. And behind it all, one name appeared repeatedly: Vex Imperium. They've been manipulating us for years, Kira whispered, keeping humans and Nilarians fighting while they profit from both sides. As morning approached, they heard the sound of ships outside. Looking through a dirty window, they saw 3 Vex vessels landing in the clearing. They found us, Marcus said, checking his weapon. We need to get this information out. Kira quickly copied the most important files to her research device. There's a communications array on the roof. If I can connect my device, I might be able to broadcast the truth to both human and Nilarian frequencies. It would take several minutes to set up, Marcus said. You'd be exposed. What choice do we have? This could end the war. Heavy footsteps echoed through the building as Vex soldiers entered below. I'll hold them off, Marcus decided. You get to the roof and send the message. Kira grabbed his arm. They'll kill you. Some things are worth dying for. Marcus looked into her silver eyes. Peace between our people is one of them. Kira hesitated, then quickly pressed her forehead against his, a Nilarian gesture of deep respect. I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. As she hurried toward the stairs to the roof, Marcus moved to the main entrance. He could hear the Vex soldiers getting closer. Taking a deep breath, he stepped into the hallway, weapon ready. Hey, he shouted, looking for me.